Our cities, streets, and homes are crumbling. The government's mismanagement of our transportation infrastructure is nothing less but gross negligence. This complex problem could be fixed if the government would relinquish its control of the publicly held infrastructure and gave it into the competent hands of private companies to repair and create new roads, jobs, and infrastructure in America. A few reasons why corporations could do a better job than the government is the historic evidence of private corporations in the railroad industry, the toll roads and their condition compared to public roads, and taxation and the price of roads for the consumer. All right, first, let's start off with the railroad industry. Railroads are very similar to roads in concept, and they use them to ship goods and services to people in America for companies and individuals on as far as the public transport trains go. This has proven to be an effective model, and it could be a model that could be implemented into roadways instead of railroads. Next, I want to discuss toll roads. Toll roads are already another form of privatized infrastructure, and they are the best model for what a privatized roadway system could look like. Toll roads are much better maintained than public highways. Now, the reason why toll roads are better maintained is because they have better funding for repairs. They are much more efficient due to needing to meet consumer needs, and toll roads are often faster during the construction. Now, toll roads are a product. The companies need to sell their roads to the consumer. It's a service, right? So if you don't have that service be efficient and better than the other alternatives, nobody's going to use it. And the reason why toll roads, especially big ones in huge cities, are so popular is because they're so much more efficient than the public transportation that's out there already. You can save time by using them, and time is money. Toll roads are also often safer than highways. Now, there is an average 174 increase in fatalities on public roadways compared to privatized ones. Now, I don't know about you, but nearly 200% more fatalities is not very good compared to the alternative of nearly 200% less if we privatize everything. And privatizing roads would lead to a safer, healthier life in the long run. Not only would it be safer, but it would be cheaper. Private roads would be cheaper per person than the current government-run roads. It's going to lead to lower taxes for the public. And we're going to do a bit of math here, so bear with me. Around $616 per person goes into maintaining the current government-run roads. Now, the government spends $1.3 trillion directly on infrastructure in 2023. That's $131 billion. That is more money than anybody or anything could ever amass in one lifetime. It's insane. And they spent so much money and they didn't do anything with it. The roads didn't get fixed. The government's poor mismanagement of the current infrastructure has led to a continued budget deficit. Now, the government, every single year, they spend money that they don't have on infrastructure that needs to be fixed, and they go and borrow it, and guess who pays it? You do. The consumer, the taxpayer pays for that budget deficit every single year. We haven't had a government surplus in years. So how are we going to pay back that debt if we're not making money to pay it back? The government isn't making money to pay it back. They're just borrowing and borrowing and borrowing until we can't borrow anything anymore. And then guess what? Our whole entire system collapses. We're built on a mountain of debt that we can never pay back, and we're going to slide down it. It's going to be terrible. It's going to be worse than the Great Depression. If the government taxed the amount that they're spending on roads already, it would cost the average taxpayer $8,000 per person. $8,000. You can buy a used car on Facebook Marketplace for $8,000. You can buy a car to drive on the road for the price you pay per person to use the road. Except they're not making you pay that $8,000. They're borrowing that $8,000, and then they're never going to pay it back. The government's never going to pay off its deficit at this rate. Private companies don't employ the same level of bureaucracy, so they wouldn't have to spend that $1.31 trillion on infrastructure that the bureaucracy does because of its terrible mismanagement. As long as citizens pay under $1.67 per day, consumers would be better off in the long run. On average, toll roads pay 6 cents per mile, and the average person drives 41 miles to and from work. So, assuming that they work a typical 240-day-a-week schedule, they would only pay $590.40 per year, which is $25.60 less than the current government-run structure. If the math doesn't add up, I don't know what will. Not only that, private firms could implement a system of price discrimination where the people who use the roads most, transportation companies, pay for the roads more than the average consumer would. Now, transportation companies use the roads more than any household ever could. They have thousands of drivers and thousands of semi-trucks, and those semi-trucks cause more damage to the roads than your minivan or your sedan or your SUV. Not to mention the jobs that would be created updating our old infrastructure and creating new roadways to help ship stuff across America. Today, I argued for the privatization of roadways. We talked a little bit about the history of private infrastructure. We talked about toll roads and their current condition. And we also talked about taxation and the possibility of new prices for the end consumer. This is only one of the many strategies proposed to update our current infrastructure model. We can make... There's a bunch of different ways to do this, and this is just one of them. Hopefully, the goal of this speech was to have you looking at roadways a bit differently. Every single time that you drive, you should be looking at it thinking, like, what's the cost? Right? That's what you should really be thinking at the very end of this. All my sources are in the description below. It's my complete bibliography. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you do like this video, feel free to like it. Feel free to comment, subscribe, do whatever you want to do. I don't care. Thank you for watching, and I really appreciate it. Ooh, let's go, baby. You a how?